Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kurt Nola, Director of Member Relations here at Barnabas Foundation. And joining me today is Cindi Riemersma, our Director of Gift Administration here at the Foundation, and my colleague for the last 18 plus years. We've been working together. It has been. Today's topic is going to be on year-end giving strategies, and we'll dive into that in just a second. But I wanted to let you know that today's session is being recorded. You'll be able to copy this recording on our barnabasfoundation.org/interactive website, or if you're just on our regular website, excuse me, you'll be able to click on the interactive banner at the top of the screen, and you'll be able to find the recording from today's sessions as well as our other client live sessions that we've done in the past that you can review and or share with others that you think might need to hear what we're going to share today. Also, this is interactive. We'd encourage you to ask questions throughout. So at the bottom of your screen, on your Zoom screen, there should be a Q&A section. Feel free to type your question into there, and we will take your questions throughout today's broadcast as we're able to do so. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to share details on how to be effective in your year-end giving. And Cindi, as we kind of get started here, we know that in the final weeks of the year, it's hard to believe there's those 55 days left before 2025 will be here. Many families are often thinking about how can I best bless the ministries that are near and dear to my heart. So what advice do you have for those folks?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways that individuals can give to their favorite ministries. The typical ways are writing a check or maybe going online and putting your credit card in. But we'd like people to think outside of that a little bit and to give them some other options of gifts that they might be able to make some gifts in the area of non-cash gifts. People hold about 10% of their wealth in cash, and the other 90% are in non-cash assets. So we'd like to encourage people to think about gifting from their non-cash assets that they have. And there's a number of items that are popular to give. Stocks, that's one that we'll talk about in depth today. Real estate, cryptocurrency, commodities, business interests, all of those can be, if structured right, can be great gifts to give to your favorite ministries. The benefits of giving non-cash gifts are that you get an immediate tax deduction. The main thing is that you avoid capital gains on appreciated assets. When you transfer that asset to charity before it's sold, the charity is not required to pay capital gain when they sell it. So it's a great way to avoid capital gain on an appreciated asset that you hold. So those are, just some benefits of gifting those non-cash assets.
Awesome. As people are thinking about this, what are some of the key considerations that they need to take into account when thinking about what their non-cash giving options are?
Yeah, so the main thing to think about is making sure that it's an appreciated asset. And what does that mean? That it's worth more than what you paid for it when you purchased it. I think a great example of that, and one that we see most common, is appreciated stock. So I'll take the example of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a stock that is in the market of AI, artificial intelligence. And so that stock has skyrocketed in the last year or so. And so someone may have purchased that stock, 2 years ago, and they paid maybe, $30 for it.
Yep.
And now I think it's worth $140, I think it was selling at today. So it's amazing how much that had appreciated. So if an individual was to go and sell that stock to create cash for them to give to charity, they'd have to pay capital gain on the difference between what they bought it for and what it's worth now. By gifting that stock to charity, they're able to take a charitable deduction for the current value of the stock and avoid having to pay the capital gain on that. But one thing to make sure, Kurt, is that any appreciated asset that they gift, they should have held it at least a year or more. Because if they've held it less than a year, then that deduction is limited to what they paid for it. So we want to make sure that they held it for at least a year. But yeah, any appreciated asset, but especially I think what we see most common is appreciated stock, is a great gift for individuals to think about when making year-end gifts to charity.
So, just as a reminder for those who joined us right away or those that came on board a few minutes late, if you do have a question, feel free to type it into the Q&A portion here in the Zoom session. It'll come up on our screen here, and we will be sure to take those questions as they come about. What are some of the other tax-wise giving options that people might consider, not just including asset-based gifts?
Sure. So another consideration, especially for individuals who are over 70 and a half years of age, is giving a qualified charitable distribution from their individual retirement account. So in the short words, it's a qualified charitable distribution, a QCD, from their IRA. And if you are over 70 and a half, you can make that a distribution from your IRA direct to charity and not have to recognize that as income first. You can't take a charitable deduction for it, but instead you get to the opportunity to not have to recognize it as income. So it's especially great for individuals who are maybe taking the standard deduction and they're not itemizing their gifts to charity. It allows them to be able to avoid recognition of income while benefiting the charity with those gifts. So it does also count to their required minimum distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get up to, I think, 105,000 it is in 2024. So that's a large distribution that you could potentially make from your IRA if you're over 70 and a half directly to benefit your charity.
Excellent. And that $105,000 limit is indexed to inflation now. So next year it'll be going up.
Yeah, to 108,000.
108, we found it out, $108,000
Yeah.
in 2025.
Yeah.
So a great way, this is a great, very powerful giving tool that we see many, many donors use. Any of you over the age of 70 and a half, we really encourage you to take a look at this and see if this makes sense for you. Important point too to note is that it's only allowable from an IRA. So if you have assets still in a 401k, 403b, or other plans like that, you'd have to convert it first to an IRA and then make those gifts. And so that may be too late in the year for you to do that now, but certainly something to be thinking about for 2025. But wonderful, powerful way to make those gifts to your favorite ministries. Are there other ways that people can stretch the value of their donations?
Yeah, there's a couple ways. Match programs are really popular, both from an employer standpoint. Sometimes people don't even realize it, but for every gift they give to charity, their employer is willing to match that contribution. So it's definitely something worth checking out to see if your employer might match your gift to charity. And then there's also some organizations, some charities who may have other donors who are willing to match gifts that come in at the end of the year. So that might be something to look at as well, that the charity might be offering from another donor that might be willing to match your gifts. So it might be interesting to look at those options that the charity might have as well.
James here asks, why is it beneficial to buy more stock after you've given appreciated stock to charity? And this is where I'm going to throw my accountant hat back on. I'm a recovering accountant myself, but if you own a stock that you purchased years ago for, say, $2,000, it's now worth 10, and it's in your taxable investment account. If you sell that in that taxable investment account, you're going to recognize the $8,000 gain, and you're going to pay a 20% tax hit on that. So it's say, $1,600 tax, give or take. If you still love that stock, but you do want to make a gift to charity, and let's say you give $10,000 a year to a particular charity, gifting, rather than writing a check from your checking account, gifting the asset to the charity eliminates that capital gain and therefore that hidden tax that's embedded there. Take the $10,000 in cash in your bank account that you would have written as a check, put it back in your brokerage account, and rebuy the stock. You've eliminated the gain, eliminated the hidden tax, still made the same gift, still getting a $10,000 tax deduction, and now you've still rebought the position, but you've increased your cost basis today's value. So again, that hidden tax, that's the double benefit, right? You get the market value deduction for the gift and eliminate the hidden tax that's bedded on the capital gains.
Yep, and I've got an increased basis on that stock.
So that's why we would encourage you to do that. Another question, if you're younger than 70 and a half, is it necessary to pay taxes on inherited IRA distribution and give the remainder?
You do have to pay tax, yes. Unfortunately, until you're 70 and a half, there is no way to avoid that if you take a distribution. So if you're near 70 and a half, you may want to consider holding on to that. But yeah, you're still going to have to potentially take your required minimum distribution.
Yep, certainly. So kind of continuing on here, and again, feel free, if anybody has questions, feel free to ask. This is a very busy time for families. We all know the holidays are upon us. There's lots of kids' activities going on. People will be traveling for family and so on and so forth. But do you have any advice for folks, the folks watching today, about ways in which to save them some time and hassle with their year-end giving?
Yeah, especially for people that like to support multiple charities. A great way to do that is to do it through a donor advised fund. It's basically a charitable giving account where you make one gift to a charity that offers a donor advised fund, and then those funds are held in an account for you to distribute to your favorite charity at any time in the future. You can gift both non-cash and cash gifts to a donor advised fund, and it's really helpful because you get your charitable deduction the year in which you make that gift to the charity, but then you have the opportunity to distribute that to charity at some point in the future. So super convenient because you get one charitable receipt from the donor advised fund charity, and it helps simplify your bookkeeping. And again, timing wise, especially if you're gifting something like appreciated stock, you can gift one stock or number of shares of stock to that donor advised fund instead of sending multiple shares of stocks to 8 or 10 different ministries. So super convenient if you gift appreciated stock as well. So yeah, so those are just some benefits. A donor advised fund is a really, really helpful tool when it comes to wanting to save time and to really simplify your charitable giving.
And Barnabas Foundation, we have our own donor advised fund called the Stewards Fund. It's what we've branded ours as. There's a lot of donor advised fund programs out there, both faith-based as well as secular-based, or from the big Wall Street banks and other financial institutions. What makes us different?
Yeah, so we are different. We are a faith-based organization that you alluded to, and we are going to have aligned values with our supporters. So we are willing to make distributions to both secular and non-secular charities, as long as they're not inconsistent with our Christian beliefs. And so we want to make sure that, an individual who uses our donor advised fund has looked at our statement of faith and that they're aligned with that. And then we are happy to make the distributions to the charities that they recommend that are aligned with those beliefs. Also, another thing is with Barnabas Foundation, you're going to get personalized service. You're going to talk to someone on our gifts team or our grants team, and those are small groups of people. And so we hope that you develop a relationship with us. That's what we would like. We consider Barnabas a family, and so we want to be your partner in your charitable giving. And so in doing that through Barnabas Foundation, you'll have a more personal relationship with the individuals that you're talking to. And then last, I would say Barnabas Foundation has the ability to handle the receipt of some complex gifts.
Yep.
So whether it be stocks or real estate or business interests, we can do that at a really economical fee to do that, cost to do that, whereas some of the other organizations that have donor advised funds won't do that. And so again, it's important to think about Barnabas Foundation and work with us if it's something that you're considering.
Yeah. We have very, very competitive fee structures. We have much lower transaction fee structures on complex non-cash gifts like real estate, business interests, and so forth. So, and I think our customer service is top notch. I think you'll find talking to Cindi and her team, you'll talk to the same people all the time, and you really get to know them and build a relationship with them. So
Yeah,
something we pride.
It's one of the favorite parts of our job.
And we hear it. You hear it from donors all the time that they love talking to the same people when they call in. But a couple questions and comments came in. Tim made a comment here about how some people avoid making stock donations because they've heard or they've gone through a process where it's been difficult or time consuming. And Cindi, you can speak to this too, but I think that almost all the major stock brokerage companies out there has got this down pat. It does require a little bit of paperwork. You do have to send instructions to your broker. And so if you're running into major roadblocks, we would encourage donors to call us and we can help walk them through that. But any thoughts that you have to share on?
No, yeah, we'd be happy to. We have some of the forms that might be utilized by some of those other brokerage firms. We have them on file. We'd be happy to share those forms with you and walk you through that process. Sometimes the first time it can be a little complex, but once you do it once, I think you'll realize that it really is easy. And yeah, we're happy to walk you through that if it's something that we can help with.
Yep. And certainly, I mean, the cost benefit here. Do you want to pay the tax in your taxable account if you end up selling those stocks this year, next year, whatever it might be? Or do you want to put that a little bit of time and effort in to do the paperwork that's required in order to make the donation and still get the deduction and avoid that tax? And so all things do come with a little bit of work, so we have to accept that. But we do know that there are a few of them out there that are difficult to do this with. And so we would encourage you to call and talk to our team, and we'll advise you along the way. So a couple of questions here. Robin, how long do you have to make recommendations for distributions once a gift has been made into a donor advised fund? Indefinitely. Their current law does not require you to make any distributions. Obviously, we'd love to see people make distributions. We are not ones to say we want to just grow our balance sheet here. We want to see money get into the hands of ministries. And so if you're selling something major and you're going to give this money away over time, you have the flexibility to do that. Many people use their donor advised fund as just an in and out. They make one gift to us and they send 10 grants out and the money's gone, right? And so you have lots of flexibility with it. There's no specific requirements legally today.
Yeah, that's correct. We just want to help make it easy for you. So whatever your plan is, whatever's easiest for you, that's what we want to help you to be able to do.
Yeah. And then regarding to what happens to any funds that are left in a donor advised fund at death, for us, we have a distribution plan in place, correct?
Correct. So for any funds that are in there, you as the donor can ask us to, you can give it to a list of charities. If you've got a list of charities that you would like that money to be distributed, some individuals like their children to continue to recommend grants and make it like a legacy account. And so that's another option that individuals have. So there's a couple different options that individuals have as far as what happens with those funds after death. But we follow the direction of the client that they've provided to us in advance.
Yeah. Yeah. So lots of flexibilities on what to do with that. Some immediate disbursements, some are long-term disbursements after their life, children's successor advisors, all kinds of things. Lots of options. That's the amazing flexibility of this tool, is that we can work with you to create the solution that works best for you and your situation within the rules and regs of what the DAF is allowed. So a couple of questions on minimum here. Minimum to open a DAF with us is $10,000. Is that correct?
$10,000 is the minimum initial gift. There's no minimum after that. So, but that's the minimum initial gift is $10,000.
Excellent. And minimum grant is $100 is our minimum grant, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, great. I know there's a couple of questions, but I'm going to jump to another couple talking points here. We're going to come back to these questions as soon as we get done here. But Cindi, I just want to touch on timing. We know there's 55 days left in the year. Timing's always an issue. We get those last minute phone calls right at the last week of the year. So what do people need to know about timing as it relates to getting gifts in and how it affects their taxes and be able to take the deductions?
Yeah. So our first recommendation is to avoid the stress and give as soon as possible. If you are contemplating your year-end giving now, make those gifts to your favorite ministries now. They would love to receive them, and then you don't have to deal with the stress later. But if time gets away from you and you haven't done that, gifts of cash, they need to be delivered in person or postmarked by December 31st. And I will warn you, our experience with the U.S. Post Service in the last couple of years has been a little sketchy. And so I would not rely on quick turnaround from the U.S. Postal Service. But if you're at all near the end of the year, you're going to want to make sure that envelope that you're mailing to your favorite ministry is postmarked by December 31st. For gifts, for non-cash gifts, it has to be received by the charity that you're making that non-cash gift to no later than December 31st. So if you're gifting stock, it's not when it leaves your account, it's when the charity receives it in their account, and they need to have it by December 31st. So again, I warn you, do not wait until the last week of the year to do that. I would not advise it. I'd recommend that you make those gifts earlier. Gifts from an IRA. This is one thing we want to make sure that if the check is coming from your IRA administrator to the charity, it needs to be sent by the IRA administrator by December 31st. But some individuals were given checkbooks from their IRA administrator. If that's the case, those checks have to be cashed. It's kind of like your own bank account. So they've got to clear your bank account. They've got to hit your IRA account before the end of the year. So that's something to make sure that if you are one of those individuals that's writing checks out of your IRA, to make sure that the charity has the opportunity to cash those checks by December 31st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so on that point too, is one of the question comes up all the time. Well, why does it matter? The IRS does not deem the distribution to have happened from your IRA until it's actually withdrawn from your account. So if you're having your administrator do it, then they write the check. They're going to pull it from your account that day. But if you write that check and mail it to a charity, it's not clearing your IRA for a period of time. And it has to be done by December 31st for it to be deemed distributed this year. And if it's being used to offset your RMD and it doesn't clear before the end of the year, you may be facing penalties because they may deem it as being a January 2025 distribution if it clears on the 2nd.
Yeah.
And so really important to do that. We know people have run into problems in this in the past, and we don't want to have that happen with any of you all.
Yep. So don't delay. I would recommend making those distributions now, making those gifts now, and just not having to deal with it as you get close to the end of the year. But sometimes there are circumstances that happen at the end of the year, whether it's, gifts that you might receive as an individual or a bonus from work. In that case, I would recommend, contacting Barnabas Foundation about establishing a stewards fund, because we can help you do that right away at the end of the year and make sure that you're able to complete that year-end giving in that way.
Yeah. Well, great questions keep coming in, so we're going to go ahead and address these. This particular individual asked about, he gives the maximum stock 30% of his income to charity, and then he wants to do the rest in cash, right? Because the law allows 60%. 60%
total. Yeah.
Total, but 30% from appreciated assets, 30% from cash. Yes, you can do that through your donor advised fund. It makes no difference if you do it through your direct to charity or through a DAF. Both qualify as meeting those particular things. Regarding fees, the question here about what is our fee for managing an account, you can find our fee schedule, I believe, on our website. I'll share it with you in a second, but on our website, if you click on Stewards Fund, there's a variety of information, and there's our guidebook
Our
on
quick
there.
reference
Quick
guidebook
reference guide.
is on there.
And there's a page in there with our fees, but our fee starts at 1% on the first $250,000 in assets, and then it drops from there.
Yeah.
I think it's 0.8%
8% on
on
the
the next
next
750,000, and
But
then
yeah, you'll
there's
see the schedule in there. But and again, just reach out to us, gifts@barnabasfoundation.org, if you have any particular questions about
Yeah.
that. We'd be happy to answer those.
if you're comparing our fees relative to the industry, we are more expensive than our secular Wall Street peers. We can't quite touch their fee base, and we're a little less expensive than our faith-based peers. So we kind of sit right in the middle of the road. IRA checks are different than regular checks in regards to this. That's an important distinction to understand. Your regular checkbook is considered when it's been mailed and postmarked or delivered. IRA checks are not considered gifts until they've cleared your IRA. Very important difference.
It
Yes.
is, yeah.
Yes. And so, right, absolutely. IRA checks, does not matter when they're postmarked. They have to be cleared
Yeah.
from your IRA. So
Yeah.
thank you for those questions and clarifying statements. So Cindi, it's been a great little 20 minutes here that we spent with folks. We've had a lot of great questions that have come in. Anything else you think our listeners should know about year-end giving strategies?
Yeah, I think to err on the side of over communicating, especially if you're gifting a non-cash asset. Don't assume that your advisor is going to notify the charity that you're sending stock. Make sure that you notify the charity as well when gifting stock. We would love the opportunity to help you to gift those non-cash assets on behalf of the ministries that you want to benefit. So if you're thinking of maybe it is the time for us to think about gifting, a portion of that vacation home, or I do have a business sale coming up, a potential business sale coming up towards the end of the year. Reach out to us as soon as possible. We would love to help you walk through those options.
Absolutely. They're jumping the gun on us with the final the closing slide here. Wow, a couple more questions came in. I learned from experience some charities are either closed or staff is on vacation on Christmas to New Year's. This has caused some gifts to be delayed in being credited. Absolutely. We do know some charities do shut down that final week of the year.
That's true.
So it would be best, as Cindi just pointed out, over communicate, call in advance, find out if they're going to be. Understand too that if you are just mailing a check, as long as you get it into the post office, it does get postmarked. It might be best to walk it to the counter and have them stamp it right there at the counter so that you see it. Then it still qualifies. But
yeah. So if you are in those last couple of days, I really would recommend taking that check to the post office and making sure that you see them put that postmark on. But again, we really like you to recommend that you avoid that situation and get that gift if you're giving a check, to just get it there earlier than that.
And Roger raises a question here. Thank you for the question, Roger. I want to make sure we touch on this, since he references the fact he has a Fidelity IRA and he takes his RMD and he uses the QCD to charity. And he asked how it might interact with a donor advised fund. IRA QCDs cannot be given to a donor advised fund.
That's right. Yep. Unfortunately, gifting to a donor advised from an IRA is not permissible according to the IRS. So that would have to go directly to the charities that you wanted to benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So understand, we inevitably every year we get some IRA gifts that come in the door here. There is a way to deal with them that are outside the donor advised fund. We can set up a restricted fund or a designated fund to do it. But it is a bit of a hassle. It's a hassle for you.
Yeah,
there's extra documents. It's not efficient. So important to note, the IRA QCDs must go direct to the end charity. They cannot go into your donor advised fund under current law. And also important note, thank you for this comment from this particular attendee. You're correct. When you make stock gifts, your name does not always follow with the gift when it pops into our account. It never does.
It just comes in as so many shares of such and such a stock. We may see that it came from Fidelity or Schwab or something like that, but the donor's name is not associated with it when the charity receives it into their brokerage account. So really important for you, if you're gifting stock, to make sure you let that charity know that you're making that gift, because they want to thank you for that gift in a timely manner. They want to make sure that it's processed in a timely manner. So please give them the opportunity to do that by letting them know that it's coming.
And you'll need that tax receipt. So, you want to make sure you let us know, even into a donor advised fund, if you're going to use it to fund your donor advised fund, let us know in advance what you're sending. So that we can match the gift with you. Inevitably, every year we get a bunch of mystery gifts that usually take the full a whole quarter to solve as people call in after the end of the year and we resolve those things. But yeah, great comment and thank you for pointing that out. As we close here today, I just want to let you know there's additional resources on this topic. We have our 7 smart and savvy tips for year-end giving. If you'd like to have a complimentary copy of this, feel free to email us at info@barnabasfoundation.com or gifts@barnabasfoundation.com, and we will get you a copy of that, or feel free to call our 800 number. Our next live event will be February 12th. We do a live event like this for donors every quarter. The events are always noted on our website at barnabasfoundation.org/interactive. And so you can find registration for our next event up there. Family meetings, orchestrating harmony in your estate plan, where Adam Lopez, one of our colleagues, will join me to talk about how we do that and keep harmony in families by communicating what's going into one's estate plan. If you have any further questions, you are always welcome to feel free to reach out to us or contact the individual from the charity ministry that invited you to today's broadcast. We thank you very much for your time and investing your time with us today. Cindi, thank you for joining me as well.
Thanks, Kurt. I appreciate the opportunity, and we are here to serve you. So if you have any questions about your year-end giving at all, please contact us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.